everybody, it's Lacey,
And I'm Lauren.
and welcome to another episode of the Lawmas podcast.
So today we are going to be talking about another serial killer. We're talking about the Golden State Killer now, which he had a name before that. What was
He
it?
has several names actually. So he was and I can't pronounce these because it was after the areas that he was in, and they were in California, and y'all know we're from Union. So the Visalia, I don't know how to say that, ransacker.
Yes, because
So
he was he was a burglar at first, and
mhm.
then he became
East
a
Area
rapist and a
Rapist.
murderer.
That it was the East Area Rapist and the Golden State Killer. So,
Okay.
and what's crazy is all of that did not connect together until they had DNA. They did not know that it was the same person until DNA became a thing, because these crimes happened in like the 70s and 80s, I think.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that was just, I think we talked about that on the last episode or the episode before, about how, then DNA just wasn't really a thing. I don't know if they were familiar with it at all, really. But yeah, so they thought, well, I don't know if they thought it was the same person or what, but I just don't think they communicated as well. And I don't know how many similarities there were, because like he just kind of progressed. Like it was the burglarizing, and then that led into the sexual assaults, and then eventually he did start murdering, but it was kind of a progression of crimes.
Yeah, and I don't think they really thought it was related much because I think the way they looked, they were very different crimes, and all of that. I just looked this up. I thought I was right, but I want to make sure. DNA profiling, it was actually first used in Britain. I knew it wasn't here in America in 1986. So
Okay, so
that,
this
like,
happened before that completely.
no, no. So in the 70s and the early 80s, I mean, they didn't understand it. But also, that was like a big deal in the OJ trial. They didn't use
Hmm.
the DNA,
Right.
but DNA had been used before in trial. We just were behind in the US. But
Not
so DNA is one of those. I will say, if you took high school biology, you should know what DNA is. It's what I can't say it like Lacey said. It's nucleic acid, but that's what is our body is made up of, and that's our genetic code to who we are. And if you ever want to know about DNA, I recommend reading the book, The Search for the Double Helix. It is by Watson and Crick, and they are the two people who found DNA, kind of like, I guess, discovered the DNA and how it worked and everything. And there's
hmm
also a movie with it, and Jeff Goldblum is in it. And so he took that knowledge to Jurassic Park. I'm just kidding. But it's a really good catch up on like DNA. If maybe you were in high school and maybe you're like my parents' age watching this, so you didn't learn much about that area in high school. But how we get DNA is a scientific thing too. It's called a lot of times polymerase chain reaction is what they do. So they take your DNA and they run it through all these test tubes and put it in this machine, and then it goes into this gel. And this gel to see if your DNA matches like crime scene DNA. So there is a big scientific part in this, and it's running these tests and those type things. So it came a long way from definitely in the 80s. And I think that is probably the reason a lot more serial killers are. Maybe we don't have as many. I'm not saying there's
Right.
not many, but people are more scared to commit it because one little single piece of hair could give your
Right.
DNA. It's just a lot harder to commit crimes like that
Yeah.
where DNA is easily
Yeah.
left.
So two things off the bat in this episode. Wendy, that edits these videos, is going to have some funny words to string together. She wants to poke fun of us and how we say stuff. And two, can y'all tell that Lauren initially wanted to go to medical school?
Yes, I'm a biology chemistry major, so I love science stuff. And while I have no desire to do criminal law ever, I love the scientific parts of it, like
Mhm.
DNA. And I think sometimes I think about if I was to do this all over again and I was back in college, I might not go to law school. I might would go get my master's or something in genetics because there's a lot more opportunities for that now than there were 20 years ago. So
Mhm.
I definitely think it could have made a career difference for me if I was going back to school today.
Yeah. But just a little background. I know we've kind of dug into this case, but the Golden State Killer, he wasn't captured until like around 2020-ish. So during his crime spree, he I mean, I kind of feel like got away with it, honestly, because he's so old now. He's not really going
He's
to
in his
spend.
70s.
Yeah, he's almost 80 years old, but so he, like we said, he was first known as the, I ain't even going to try to say it, ransacker, and he would just break into people's houses and burglarize. And another thing is these crimes happen in different areas of California. Also, and by the way, the Golden State Killer is Joseph James DeAngelo. That's who did commit these crimes. But anyway, so after that, it did lead to sexual assaults, and he would often, and it's horrible, like he would break in, he would tie up husbands and put plates on their backs, and he would say, if I hear the plates move, I'm going to kill you both. So so they had evidence clearly from all of the, very many crimes. I mean, I think there was like 100 something crimes that they had for him. And then eventually, like we said, he did start murdering people, and that's where the Golden State Killer came along. So there was actually a book called Into the Night, I think it was, and it was by Michelle McLamara. Is that her last name? But she was just obsessed with trying to find I'll find the name of that book in a minute, but she was obsessed with trying to find the Golden State Killer. Like she was trying to and so she just, talked to more people and all these things, and she unfortunately passed away before they captured him and before she finished her book. So her husband actually finished her book and released it. Can you find it? Well, yeah, so her
Her
husband,
husband is
yes, he's an actor.
Patton Oswalt. And
Yes.
he's been like in the Avengers, like
Mhm.
those type things. Lord
Yeah.
of the Rings, yes, like that guy.
Yeah,
Yes.
but she really helped bring to light
Yes, yes. I
um
remember this now
the
that you're
Golden State
saying it.
Killer. Yeah, yeah. So is it Michelle McLemore? That's get that right?
McNamara. Mc Mc
Okay.
it's McNamara. So we want to give
Again,
her credit.
Wendy, you're just gonna have fun with us today.
But
Um
however you say her last name, yes, she was very into that. I remember.
yes. So yeah, so anyways, I don't know at what point they were able to connect him, but he was not in CODIS, which is what we talked about, which if you've been convicted of a felony, they have your DNA in CODIS. So eventually they did look at these crimes, and as they're putting him into CODIS, they realized the extent of his crime spree, because before DNA and this database, really, it wasn't just the DNA, it was the database too. They didn't realize how many crimes that he committed. So as they're putting things in, that's when they realized that all this is tied together. Another fact about this guy is he's former law enforcement. He used to work on burglaries and areas, and some neighbors would talk about like how he would bring like the East Area rapists up and see what they had to say. But I don't think we'd think too much about that. I mean, maybe back then you would, but now we wouldn't, because I mean, so many people are into true crime. I mean, we have said our podcasts that get the most views are when we talk about true crime shows and stuff like that. So I just think if people are bringing stuff like that up, we probably wouldn't think nothing of it. So I don't blame, the neighbors or anything like that for, not realize, oh God, maybe we should have known then. No, there's no way you could have known. And
Well, no, and I think especially in today's time, you see all those memes like
mhm.
girls will like not watch like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but they're going to get a cup of coffee and watch a true life serial killer documentary for comfort. So I
Yeah,
definitely think we have a fascination with murder and mayhem. I love Dateline. So
yeah,
yes, I don't, and even back then, that was, people didn't have you didn't have as much news and stuff going on. So it
right.
was probably just normal conversation. Have you heard anything else about this guy kind of thing? And we
And I
were in
also
California with a lot of serial killers. I mean,
And if
just
he's a cop,
normal.
like for me, if he's a law enforcement or former law enforcement and asking questions, I was like, oh God, maybe he's trying to get more information. Like maybe somebody saw
He got
something and
tipped
didn't
off.
realize it, like, hey, have you heard anything? Because I would just think that if somebody was asking me that was in law enforcement, they're just doing their job. They're
Mhm.
just picking the brains of people in their community to see if there's anything out there that hasn't been reported yet that might help them solve these crimes. So I wouldn't, think anything of those conversations, but looking back, they just found it, so odd that he would bring things up and talk about them all the time. But yeah, so eventually he was captured because of familial DNA. So we had mentioned that last week too, and how that's pretty recent. So they were able to basically find relatives of his, and they were able to track it down. And the way that they found him is once they thought it was him, to confirm the DNA, they went through his trash and they were able to get DNA from him from the trash, and that DNA matched the DNA from all of these crimes. And he ended up pleading guilty to avoid the death penalty. And like I said, he's almost 80 years old, so he's going to die in prison.
Look, his birthday is 1945. And I will
Mhm.
say in all this, he was married and he
Yeah.
has kids. He was, I
Mhm.
think, living with his daughter at the time of his arrest. Like, he
Yeah.
wasn't some like loner off by himself. I don't think
Mm-mm.
his family, I think he was abused as a child from what I've understood. I don't know if it
He
was
says
sexual or
that
physical.
yes, there are claims that his father abused him, but also there's claims that he saw his sister be raped as well. So
So there is that and that. And then it was but he does have a family, had 3 kids, living with
yeah.
his daughter. So like
And his
he's
daughter said
not.
he was a great dad.
Yeah.
Like didn't notice anything, and like I do think he was separated from his wife. I don't think the divorce officially happened until this investigation started, but
They
I
had
think
been married for 50 years. I
yeah,
mean, like maybe not that long, but a very long time.
yeah. And what's crazy about this case too is from all we know, he went dormant for decades.
He stopped, I believe it was 1986 was his last known.
Yeah.
Um, and
And what cat I think he was captured around a little before 2018ish, I want to say.
2018, I think, is when it
Yeah.
was 2018. And
So 30 years.
he pled, I believe, like 2020 or 2021 because it was COVID. I remember seeing him with his mask on.
Mhm.
But yeah, he went, and I honestly think if he had committed more crimes, he would have confessed then because why not? I
Yeah.
mean, he did, I will say in his plea, he got up and he apologized. He didn't say, ask for leniency, but then at this
Right.
point, you're
You ain't
70.
getting nothing. There ain't no leniency coming
No,
if
I
you're caught doing
mean,
all this.
and he got up and he apologized and then stuff, said he was sorry for the victims. Um, I think he got a thrill from doing it, and that's why it kept escalating. And I don't know, maybe, in the
I don't
80s,
understand how he stopped. I don't understand how he stopped because I mean, we've talked about Ted Bundy and Eileen Wuornos, and they did not stop until they were caught. Um, so it's just so crazy to me that you escalate and escalate and escalate and do all these horrible things over and over and over, and then all of a sudden you stop. Like, what was it? Like,
I don't
that
know if it,
bothers me that we don't know like what it is, or did you not stop
I
and
think he stopped. I really,
in other stuff. I'm not convinced, Lauren. I'm not convinced because if you're saying that DNA started being used in the late 80s, he was highly intelligent. He had a criminal justice degree, I think, and maybe something like psychology or something. But like,
I don't think he would have known about the DNA when he stopped because that was in the UK. And he even saw here in the OJ trial, it did not go in. And one of the most high. So here we were a solid 10 to 15 years behind. So I don't think the DNA, I wonder if it was just one of those things like, okay, so I don't know if y'all read Matthew Perry's book where he was getting high, getting high, getting high. And then at a certain point, it did nothing for him anymore. It was just like, that happens too. Was it just like,
yeah,
I've done this. I don't care anymore. Like I've
I
gotten
think
away
there's more
with it.
stuff. I just think there's more stuff, and they just maybe bad investigations and don't have DNA on it, so they can't link it to him. And then
But
by the
serial killers
90s,
like to confess. Like, there's no reason for him to keep it secret though, because they like the people like with that mentality. Like Ted Bundy kept confessing. Like Todd Colehep had to get in there and
but
confess.
don't we think Ted Bundy confessed a little bit so they would delay the death penalty?
No, but he liked the notoriety of it. Like I,
People,
he wouldn't confess a few of his victims' locations because he had a special bond with them.
but again, they did not stop until they were caught. And I truly believe they would not have stopped without being caught. So
Oh
it
no,
also shows DeAngelo is different. Like,
yes,
if
but
he
does
went
he have?
dormant that long, I think he is different from our typical serial killers.
I guess does
And
he have the serial killer gene, or was it just I'm an adrenaline junkie?
at
And
that,
that was
I don't know. I
because
think
he
there's more.
didn't start killing people. So like Ted Bundy from the start was he wasn't tiptoeing in the like grays. He was pretty much he started killing really young. This
And
guy was
Eileen
like
did it. She was an escalator. She escalated from assaults and stuff to murder like he did.
I think that he was just like, "Ooh, I can do this. I'll get away with this," and it was a thrill. I think for him, some of it is he was the adrenaline junkie, and part of it, he got a thrill off of it, and
Yeah.
it was the high of doing something. So maybe he was out there cave diving for all we know. But
I
with
want to
him,
know from our viewers, are you with Lauren? Do you think he really did stop and went dormant all these years? Are you with me? Do you think he did more stuff and just didn't get caught? That is what I want to know from our listeners. Because
well, and I think
I'm opposite. I think he is still doing stuff and we just don't know. And I think he's just different as a serial killer because he's old. So he don't care about the notoriety no more. I think he liked the attention that he was getting in the news media when all of it was so rampant. But who's to say he didn't like read stuff online about crimes and stuff that he committed and didn't get caught on? I'm convinced there's more. I'm convinced there's
it
more.
looks like he only really terrorized for 12 years, though. Like he was only
But there's also stuff saying that he killed animals when he was a kid. And so you have some of these characteristics of other serial killers with starting off by killing animals.
I think one of the big kind of switching gears though, if one of the biggest things I think with him is the ethics and all of this, which I read when we decided we were going to talk about him. There's actually some articles that are not legal articles. They're
Hmm.
done by like the National Institute of Health because law and public health cross each other a lot. If you haven't noticed this, especially if you're in this day and age, we learned a lot with COVID and how the law impacts public health. And so with him, there is this issue: are people not going to get medical care and things like that due to the fact that your DNA could be used to find you guilty of a crime?
Yeah. We kind of started touching base on that last week. And, I told you that MUSC, I get messages all the time. Can you give us your DNA for our chart? And I'm like, no, I can't.
When like, and that's kind of what we talked about too. Is like, does this make you more or less want to do that? And I guess for me, though, I've never committed a crime outside of probably speeding, and that's probably about it. And you're not.
Lauren, you drank underage. We can admit that now.
I have not done a whole lot of things. There's nothing my DNA. I have not murdered anybody. I have not.
You have
I have
not
not.
harmed anyone as a crime.
No. My speeding is probably the only thing I do on the reg that is a crime related event.
Under nine,
But
you're fine. That's my
but
philosophy. That is not the law. Disclaimer.
but with that, I guess I'm not worried about it. But then I guess what if my hair, I don't know. Like, so sometimes I go down this rabbit hole. What if my hair is left at a crime scene because a crime happened before, like maybe I went to the QT because I had to go to the bathroom, went in there, touched the door handle, my DNA's on it, or I brushed my hair in the bathroom, or I go get that Coke. and then somebody comes in and robs
Right.
the gas station afterwards. Like, then am I going to be a suspect? So I guess like the way, and like Lacey said, this is through looking at it through genetics. So they didn't even have, they originally did not have like his DNA from this. They used things like Ancestry, 23andMe,
Hmm.
and I don't know, but if y'all ever look at Ancestry or 23andMe, if you sign up for it, I've been an Ancestry member, but I've never done the DNA. I've just done the family
Right.
tree, and it's really cool. But my husband did the Ancestry. We did the swab, or he might have 23andMe. I don't remember which one, but we were looking to find relatives of his possibly. He probably won't want me to share this, but we found this picture in his mom's lockbox of this man. So I kind of wondered, was this your dad? No, his dad is his dad. So whatever. It wasn't cool results like we were hoping. But so we did it. I mean, my husband, I don't think has committed any crimes in his adult years. Yes, I know he underage drank, and I'm guessing he's probably smoked pot and all that type stuff, but
Throw
not
Wes under the bus here.
so nothing from like his adult
Right.
years that I'd be worried about. But yeah, what if something like that? What if something happened where somebody, was raped, but my husband's like it happened in the work parking lot where his DNA is all over it and it was his cousin or something that did it. You're kind of opening a big door. But me as the science person, I love the DNA stuff because I want to know, am I more likely to get cancer? What can I do to help prevent this? But is it going to stop me from wanting to get these possible answers? Because in the future, it could possibly implicate me in a crime. And a lot of times, while DNA, I think the science is the science, the DNA is not always going to be 100% accurate. And then, like we've seen with our other series, people do get that tunnel vision. So I
And
know
I do
Lacey said
think
no.
I did.
Like,
I do
she's
think.
not going to do it.
I do think there's a difference with submitting your DNA for like ancestry.com and the police getting your DNA from there and the police getting it from your medical provider. And I think that our DNA to medical providers should be protected. I think that that should be protected under HIPAA, that police cannot access that data. I mean, I guess you can make arguments for a search warrant and stuff, but I don't know. I just if you voluntarily give your DNA for something like that's not medical, that's not something that's necessary, that is just for fun that you choose to do. I don't see a problem in the police using that for this kind of stuff because you chose to put your DNA on there on
And it is
ancestry.com and
in
stuff
that
like that.
contract, probably, that this is not
Yeah,
protected.
I would
All
think
that.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't like cops getting it from a medical provider. I don't think that should be allowed. I don't think that should be done. And I think that's the only way we can ensure that people are getting the things that they need and can find out. My mother in law has had breast cancer. My mother has had breast cancer. There's been some other cancers in my family. Just yesterday, I found out about a family member that may have, a certain cancer that another family member had. So, it's definitely something that's on my radar right now, especially like you're talking about, Lauren. So, I mean, if there's ways to find out if I'm at a higher risk, I would want to know those things and want to know, is there anything I can do now to help myself? But I ain't doing it if the cops can get it.
How does this work? I guess, like, if you, like, go to the hospital after you've committed a crime and, like, say, I don't know. I'm thinking like you committed like a stabbing or something, but in the process you got stabbed, like y'all were fighting and you got stabbed or something, and you go to the hospital to get that wound treated. Can the cops get that information? How does that process work?
Um, I don't think they can get anything you told your doctor, but could they get your medical records? Yes, absolutely. I've gotten several medical records. I've gotten medical records from alleged victims. I've gotten medical records from my own clients. Um,
So
I
there
know
is a
that there's
good
medical
chance.
records for some clients, and I don't ask for them because I don't want to get them or trigger trying to get them. So yeah, there are certain circumstances that you can
And is
get
stuff
those.
redacted in that, or can you get? So I know in civil cases we can get medical records under
Right.
subpoenas, especially if like the issue is like did this person have capacity, stuff like that we're trying to argue.
Right.
But like, for instance, if you're pulling my medical records because I committed a crime, do you get to know I'm like a type 1 diabetic? Like, does all that come out? I'm not a diabetic. That's just my example. It's like,
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I've seen a, a drug screen panel. I've seen one where there was a lot of drugs in someone. Um, I can't think that much was redacted, honestly. In the last few medical records that I've looked at, I don't think there was much redacted, if anything at all.
it's kind of crazy. I mean, I know, like, I honestly know
How
if
do
I
you? I don't. You couldn't redact. I mean, it's a profile, right? DNA is a profile. Like, how would
Well,
they
I'm
get?
just saying, like, for instance, if I did this test that was like,
Mhm.
um, the test that said, like, for instance, I know people have the BRCA gene that causes cancer. So if
Right.
I'd done a test that said I have the BRCA gene, so therefore I'm more likely to get this cancer, and when they ran a DNA sample on this person, they knew they had that BRCA gene. Could they find, like, use those pieces to piecemeal stuff together, I guess, like, to know more? Or is that like, I don't know if this
Right.
is beyond the scope or if that stuff we're going to get to is like, oh, well, this person has genes ABCD
Yeah.
and we see that in their medical records. This serial killer we know has this. So therefore, we're going to mandate some type of testing.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, and that's kind of the interesting thing about law, right? And with science is it's just there's so much new technology, and so I just don't know if we have the protections in place legally that we need to make people feel more comfortable with getting that kind of stuff. Maybe we need some laws to give people more privacy and protection with stuff like that. But I definitely think as science and technology develops, our legal system has to develop with it. You know, to keep up to because yes, we do want police to be able to catch people that are harmful to the community. Me and Lauren aren't saying that, but at the same time, we also have privacy. We've seen botched investigations. So there has to be a balance. It can't just be, well, it's for the better of the public for just everybody to give the DNA so we can all find out who did the bad stuff and capture them up. It's so much more into it. It's more gray areas. It's not black and white. It's not clear cut. So I think our science and our technology is growing at such a rapid pace, and I think our legal system is just really lagging. And so I think there's just a lot of questions out there that we don't have answers to legally.
Well, and I think that's where, like, I think there's, like, probably help that needs to be done between lawyers and scientists and legislatures to all come up with plans because we are lawyers, we are not scientists. So we do not know all of that. And your legislators tend to be a lot of attorneys, but there are different fields. But you don't see a lot of medical professionals and scientists in the world of politics, like at your local levels, that are usually deciding your laws. So I think that's one thing that maybe committees need to be established at like the state levels, because a lot of this criminal stuff is by state level law. So we want our statutes and our codes to reflect this. And that's something that I think is going to have to change.
Agreed. Agreed. So I'm curious what our listeners think about that too. Like, how do y'all feel? Would y'all give your DNA for medical purposes, even if you knew that law enforcement could access it at any time? And if y'all have any questions, definitely send us a message.
And next week, we're going to continue with another serial killer stuff, but we are going to move into spooky October, which I'm excited about because I want to talk about Amityville Horror. But, anyways, if you have cases, paranormal, weird, just things you think are more Halloweeny, definitely shoot us a DM, let us know, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Lauren, before we close, there is a toy going off on the other side of my office, and nobody else is in here but me.
Mm-hmm. So I believe in ghosts and spirits. So somebody's trying to talk to you.
I'm a little creeped out. See you next week.
Bye.